Let me do that. Okay. And we won't always use Zoom. There are a couple of ways that I want to introduce you to group meetings online to kind of give you that experience. But this will be one easy way. Hi, Greg. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Who's waving next to you? Is that another?
Yeah, someone else.
Someone in the class or?
No.
Just a wannabe? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a fan.
Yeah.
Hi, Maddie.
Hi, how are you?
All right, thank you. So why don't you, you kind of all know each other already because you saw each other's flip grids, which is very cool. You guys did a good job with those. You inspired me to actually be creative with mine. So anyway, here we are. So welcome to Writing 235. And I like to get together and have a live meeting at some point just to give you the opportunity to see each other, know that you're part of a class. I don't like online classes where students never get to actually meet. I feel that even though that's a lot of times why you take an online class, I think something gets lost without that learning community, the experience of that learning community. Hi, Tyler, Elizabeth. So giving you this opportunity at least a few times over the course of the semester, let you know you're part of a learning community, let you see each other. It just makes it more real. It gives us the opportunity to interact online. It also gives me an opportunity to model ways that we can interact online for you. So as you're doing online work, now in the future, you will have the opportunity to know how to use different interfaces. Zoom is wonderful because Zoom is the most stable video interaction that I've seen yet compared to Skype or Google Hangouts. Zoom has been the best. So one thing that you will notice, and I will tell you that what you probably want to do is when you're not talking, and I'm doing it for you now, is that you mute and then unmute to talk. So that way you don't, because every time there's a little background noise, you'll take over the screen. So one time I was teaching a live class and someone wanted to Skype in because she couldn't make the class. So it was the first time I'd done it. That was a great idea. So I hooked her up to it was at Swan Hall. I hooked her up to the class, like, speaker and screen, so we saw her on the screen and we could hear her on the speaker, and going along with the class, all of a sudden I hear this like thunder, and I realized that she was eating some kind of chips and it was thundering through the class. So we learned that probably wasn't the best way to connect somebody, but you learn as you go along. So the mute button helps. Anyway, let me start the way I would start any class, obviously by saying hello, but also by saying, before I say anything at all, if any of you have any questions about anything that I've put out there so far, if you want to ask, don't forget to unmute before you ask. While you're thinking about that, I am going to go to share screen, and let's see what I'm going to do here. Okay, I'll bring up the Etherpad. Now everyone's been on the Etherpad at this point. Have you also noticed that I created you each your own Etherpad? You can do what you want. That's your space. That's just white space right now, and you can just do what you want with it. Now, you'll notice the thing about Etherpad is that it's very, very simple, stupid. It doesn't do anything but text. And the reason I like it is because it's that simple. It's a great place to communicate, have conversations. It's real time, so we can all be on the Etherpad and literally all be typing at the same time. And each with our different colors, you'd see the stream of color going across the screen while we're talking. The other thing I love about Etherpad is Etherpad has this feature. let's see. You guys are in my way right now. Etherpad has this feature, which is called Time Slider. And with Time Slider, you can review the pad like a movie. So it's wonderful. See, you can actually watch the writing happen. I think that's awesome. And that's wonderful for process sometimes. It's also wonderful if anything accidentally gets deleted, you just go back in the time slider and get it back. So Etherpad was created by Mozilla. It's open source, and it was created as a resource just for notes and live time meetings. I went to a Mozilla meeting on Etherpad with a friend that was doing some work with them, and I was like, wow, this is great. I want to teach with this. So the great thing about Etherpad too is that it has this time slider, but it also has the opportunity, I think, just for people to kind of express themselves in a different way. So the model that I use when I teach with Etherpad Live is we would all call into a conference call. You would hear me, but you would be doing all your conversation like this by typing onto the Etherpad. So it's pretty cool. So that's that. I thought you'd enjoy seeing that. But any question about the Etherpad, how we use it? I found that students have been creating different ways to use the Etherpad each semester, and I think that I'm sorry, I was just looking at a chat note. I think that they've kind of shown me in some ways how we can use it differently than ways that I thought about using. People have used it for projects. We use it sometimes in live classes. I use it for like a back channel where we'll actually be taking notes on the Etherpad while class is going on. And so everybody can see the notes. So it becomes a shared note place, which is really cool too. And again, it's another way of writing in electronic environments that allows us the opportunity to explore the different types of writing that we do. Now, people often say in this class, when we start, I feel like I haven't done any writing. I've even heard people say, I feel like this isn't even a writing class. I say at the end of the semester, if you feel like it's a typical writing class, then I did something wrong. Actually, I think that the beauty of this class is that it tries to put it in a real perspective. It really focuses on the rhetoric, the digital rhetoric of writing electronic environments, and tries to focus on putting the things that we do in a real perspective. If you watch my introduction video, I said that Dr. David Crystal, the linguist that I quote, he said that students write more now than they ever have. And a lot of people challenge that because they say, well, what does that mean? Students don't like to write. I say, students write constantly. In fact, most of my students only like to write. They don't like to talk. And by that, I mean that you spend most of your time texting to each other. And that's your preferred choice. Your preferred medium of communication is texting. That's writing, you know? So when I asked you to tweet and I asked you to get on the Etherpad and I asked you to do the Flipgrid, in all of those cases, you had to do some kind of writing for electronic environments, all right? Whether it was writing down your ideas for how you're going to answer the questions on the Flipgrid, creating some kind of a script, or it was figuring out how you were going to get it into 280 characters on Twitter, which Twitter purists hate right now that they've gone to 280 characters. We liked when it was 140. I have a student from this class who's actually taken specific particular umbrage to that. He really dislikes that it's gone to 280 characters. He thinks it's a sellout. But and the idea again is that when we think about writing electronic environments and everything that we're going to write in this class, it's going to be in the context of, you know, how do you make it real? So one of the things I like to do when I start classes, I like to ask the question, what is writing? It's a very basic question, but So I'd like to put that out there. Let me get off my screen for a minute and just ask, what is writing? Anybody? Just throw out an idea. What
I guess it would be a form of communication.
form of communication? Great. Okay. Now let's play I'm 2 years old and just keep asking what. So what is communication? Anybody?
Being able to convey information from one person to another using a sort of media.
Okay, conveying information from one person to another using some sort of media. Now, when you're doing that, what in using life terms now, get out of academic think for a minute and think about like a life word. What do we call that when we're doing that? Other than communication, what do
Forming
what do we
relationships.
call that experience?
We're talking.
Not always.
Trying to relate to one another.
Trying to relate to one another. Relate is the key word there. So let's turn that into a noun. So what is that that's happening there?
Forming relationships.
Exactly. When we communicate, we're in a relationship. Communication is relationship. And I think that's the rhetoric of writing, that communication is relationship. So how do I enter every relationship in my life? When I'm thinking about it as a relationship, I'm thinking about, who is this person? Why do I want to talk to this person? What do I want from this person? What does this person want from me? What are we doing? What's the nature of our relationship? What are our roles? Who am I in the relationship? Who is he? Who is she? Who are they? And all of those questions need to be asked anytime that we enter relationship. So if writing is communication and communication is relationship, then all of those questions need to be asked anytime we write. And that's the fundamental beginning of where I believe we have to think about writing. So if you haven't thought about writing up till now in that manner, then you haven't been writing. You've only been practicing to write. You know, it would be like a basketball player, going out on the court in front of, you know, 300 people or 500 people or 1,000 people or whatever, and just doing layups because that's all they ever learned how to do was layups. Right? That's writing without a purpose. So thinking about all those questions about audience and purpose and reason and intent and my tone and how I feel about what I'm writing, what I want to make happen, thinking about the relationship, I think is key. So let me share a little bit of crossover from my other profession with you. So I mentioned in my introduction that I'm a musician. I play out regularly. I played out last Friday night, and when I'm playing a room, I'm always watching what's going on in the room. I'm watching the body language to see how my music is working or not working. Am I picking the right songs? Am I playing them the right way for whomever's in front of me? And that has a lot to do with age, has a lot to do with the culture of where I'm playing. All right. So I'm always thinking about my audience and always thinking about how I'm presenting the music, because the music is the medium. Now, when I play a club, it brings up another issue. And this was a kind of an epiphany I had one night while I was playing, because I'm a writing geek and I'm thinking about writing while I'm playing music. I was playing a club and I started thinking about how the writing process is just like the forming of a relationship. And I was watching, like there's a common kind of a movie that I watch when I play. Like I'm in the corner and I'm playing for a bunch of 20 and 30 somethings and they're all having a good time. And one person sends a nonverbal cue across the room to another person and they connect. And then eventually one of them moves to the other person, brings his or her tribe with them, and meets the other person and his or her tribe. And then the two main characters start talking to each other with meaning. Everybody else starts meaninglessly talk to each other like they care because they're trying to help out their friends. And I watch this whole show. And it's kind of ironic because they think I'm the show, but I'm the sober guy in the corner watching them. And then they, if it's going well, I'll see laughter. Eventually, I'll see that they'll kind of unconsciously maybe move a little closer toward each other. And then eventually there'll be some kind of innocuous touch, like maybe on a shoulder, or on an arm, or, and if it's real comfortable, it might last more than a second. And I watch this over and over and over again. And I say, this is relationship in the making. And then I imagine, okay, now what's going to happen after this? You know, if they're going to leave here, they're going to talk about each other to their friends all night. And they're going to ask their friends where they should go on their first date and what they should do all night. And the friends are going to act like they care all night. And the friends are going to give them recommendations for the date. You should do this. You should do this. Ask him what he likes. Ask her what she likes to eat. Ask him where he likes to go. You know, whatever. And they're going to take all that input from their friends, and they're going to say, okay, I'm not going to go to a movie because you don't get to really talk much in a movie. That's a bad first date. So walk on the beach sounds good if it's warm enough, but if it's not, I need to have a backup plan. I definitely need to have 3 possible places to go and eat so that when I say, where do you want to go? And the other person says, I don't care, it's up to you, I have alternatives, and I'm ready to go somewhere. And I do all this planning, and then I go on the date. And then I come back after the date, and I get back with my friends, and I say, okay, this worked, that didn't work, that was a big fail, this was really, really good. And I talk about where it's going to go from here. And relationships just continue like that. Like you just keep going with, where am I going to go from here? And it's an ongoing kind of give and take, talking to friends about the relationship, helping make decisions about how you want to relate to this person throughout your entire life with this person for as long as you're together. And what a relationship is not, hi, my name is Frank. It's nice to meet you. Would you like to go home with me, get married, have sex, have kids, and die? Right? That's not a relationship, but that's how a lot of people write. A lot of people just write it, they proofread it, and they turn it in. And that is, would you like to go home with me, get married, have sex, have kids, and die? All right. So if you put it in that context of all relationships have some kind of meaning and purpose, and they're always about people interacting and making meaning, then when you get to writing, you're still applying that. When you get to digital writing, now you're applying that in electronic environments. And in every one of those environments, in every one of those circumstances, in every one of those relationships, the rules are the same. The sameness is kind of the foundation of communication. The difference is the medium. So when people say, you know, this generation doesn't know how to communicate, they don't interact, they don't connect, they don't, you know, they don't talk, I say, well, every generation does it differently than the last because they have different ways to do it, you know, and everybody talks in some way, even if they don't use words, you know. There are people who can't talk. There are people who have strokes and can still communicate very, very loudly with their nonverbal communication, you know. So electronic media give us the opportunity to communicate in a new way. And I think what they've brought, and I think if you've read the chapters I've assigned so far, in chapter 1 of Create to Learn, I think Renee Hobbs talks about just kind of the power of making meaning in electronic environments is that it's much more interactive. It's much more immediate, I think is what I'm looking for here. We've always known that we're writing for an audience. We've always known that it's some kind of a communication, a conversation. We call it a conversation, but in actuality, we very seldom hear back from the person, the final person of our writing, the final receiver of our writing, if ever. So it's not a conversation the way we would typically call a conversation, but when we're online, when we're creating a blog, when we're posting on our Facebook page or or on our Instagram, or we're posting a tweet, we are going to get some kind of immediate feedback. We're going to get a like, or we're going to get a retweet or a repost or some kind of reaction. And that's going to be so immediate that the conversation can just be in real time, almost all the time. So it creates some new rules for how we write. But on top of what already works. And I want to go back to something else too. I want to talk about how when we first learned to read and write, I want you to think back to those first books that you read. Tell me what they were like. Anybody?
One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish.
Yeah, okay. All right. So tell me what that book looked like.
A lot of pictures, a lot
A
of
lot of
colors,
pictures. A lot of pictures is a key point. All right.
not really substantive.
Yeah. Not a lot of words, but substantive for that age. I mean, a lot of information there, but it's multimodal, you know. And books now are pop up. They sing. They have electronic elements to them. You know, I bought my friend's son a book when he was 6 months old for Christmas, and he's a year and a half old now almost, and he still loves it. You know, he's always got that book. He's always playing with it. He's come to know the tunes of that book. You know, he knows which buttons go with which pictures, and now he's learning his words, and it's pretty cool to watch. But and writing stays multimodal like that as we go through our early grades. You know, there's always pictures. Then the pictures start getting a little smaller, and the words start getting a little more. And you use the word substantive, but I'll say it's just more textual. And until there are no more pictures, which is around fourth or fifth grade when people start saying, I don't like to read anymore. I used to love to read. Probably because there are no more pictures, you know? So what electronic environments has done for us is it's given us that back. It's given us the opportunity to be meaningful as mature communicators, but in the old way of pictures and video. Video is definitely the most powerful medium right now, by far. You know, sometimes I say video is the new writing. And has anyone ever heard of Marshall McLuhan? Do we have any journalism majors here tonight? Anybody? Marshall McLuhan? Know who that is? Does anybody know who it is? Okay, he was a mid 20th century journalist. They call him the grandfather of American journalism. And Marshall McLuhan's famous line, his mantra, was "The medium is the message." All right? And it's a very simplified, all-encompassing idea that everything we present is part of the message that we're trying to present. Right down to the way we look, the way we talk, the way we write, the way we swirl our L's, the way we dot our I's, the way we, you know, and then the pictures that we choose, the paper that we use, or the font that we use, or whatever the medium is the message. All right. But Marshall McLuhan also said, and this is the most fascinating thing, he said, text will cease to exist at some point in communication, that it will become extinct. And, you know, I make the statement at the end of my video that books will take their place in history, and we will no longer use paper, quill, and ink is the phrase that I use. And a lot of people push back on that when they hear me say it, when they watch that video. I made that video in 2011. You can imagine there was a lot more pushback then than there is now. But I think that the idea is, as we find new ways to make meaning, we still make meaning, we just do it differently. So, you know, if any of you are English majors, you know that, you know, the old bard was, you know, people used to put everything in rhyme, like one fish, two fish, right? Used to put everything in rhyme, and they used to pass down history through song. And they used to tell song. They used to tell stories by singing them so that they could remember them. There were no word. There was no written text yet, you know. And then the printing press kind of, you know, had a lot to do with changing the way we interfaced. Now we have video and video but we have multimodality online, I think, that really changes the way we operate. So when I make a video like that whiteboard video that I made, or that introduction video that I made with Ziggy, that's writing to me. Okay, that's writing in electronic environments. It's the multimodality of writing coming to life. You know, there are plenty of words that I had to write for both of those productions that I put together. Both of those artifacts had writing involved, not just the mixing of words in the actual product, the actual artifact, but the words that I had to write in the planning. You know, the way that, so when I made that whiteboard video, I made it with an artist, a professional artist who was doing that work, my friend that was working for Mozilla. And it was a very interesting co-writing experience because he was coaching me on what I should write and not write, for what I should say and not say. Because he could say stuff with his drawings that I didn't have to repeat and be redundant, which allowed me to say more in 3 minutes than I could say if I was just talking, right? And so that type of writing was very different for me. It was script writing. It was writing so that I could talk. And B, it was choosing ideas and words that were going to interface with what he was drawing. So we were co-authors in a way, but he was authoring the visual and I was authoring the text, right? And then the inflection of my voice. So it was a really cool experience, you know. When I did the class intro video, that was kind of more me just kind of fooling around and putting out some basic ideas, but making sure that I just kind of thought, you know, what am I trying to do with my audience here? I want to make you laugh, and I wanted to make you feel comfortable and interested and curious about what this class was going to be about, you know, and kind of just introduce that this is a way now that we write. So that's kind of what was behind everything I've done so far. The flip grids even, you know. So now I'd like to shut up for a while. And I'd like to ask you again, A, if you have any questions, and B, if you'd like to add anything to the conversation at this point.
I have a question regarding the blog.
Mhm.
Give us a few choices on which you know, platform to use. Do you recommend any one that is better, or what are your thoughts on that?
It depends on you. I got to tell you, like, did you watch, Bryce, did you watch Kristen?
Did I watch what?
Did you watch Kristen's presentation about blogging?
The video you sent?
No, so in that long email that I sent you, there were a bunch of tasks, and also in the instructions in the blog assignment. And one of them was to watch a guest speaker that we had last semester on a Zoom, who's a professional blogger.
I didn't even see that. No,
You know, watch her. She's really good. She's really good.
Okay.
And she talks about why she chose the media that she chose. Some people like really like different things. You know, some people like to use Blogger. Some people like to use WordPress. WordPress is really popular for people. WordPress is more toward the I'm going to create it kind of like from a white palette kind of approach, where you get into a Blogger or even a Wix or a Weebly, and you get into like more of a I'm going to find a template that I like and kind of build from that kind of approach. So I am not great with visual space when I'm creating. I know, and maybe I'm better than I think I am. Maybe I have an attitude thinking that I'm not, but I know when something looks right. So when I'm doing a show and I make a poster, it never looks right to me. And I'm like, other people make posters that look so good. Why can't I make a poster? So now I just go and I find poster sites, or I look at other people's posters that play the same kind of music as me, and I get ideas, you know, and I model. But if you go to chapter 7 of Create to Learn too, I think I have it here. Let me see. And you don't necessarily have to use the book. You can even go to the site. I brought up the site, but here's chapter 7 of the book. These 6 questions I think are really helpful in preparing you for the blog. So you might want to take a look at those. Actually, the questions at the end of all the chapters. I only assign the questions at the end of chapter 1, but I think the questions at the end of all the chapters are meant to just kind of get you thinking about what you're doing, why you're doing it. And she even asks you, you know, in these questions, why did you choose that template? Why did you choose that site? So, and maybe your classmates have feedback on what they like more than others, but definitely watch Kristen. Anybody else?
I had a question on the blog as well.
Okay.
So I had like a Tumblr blog where I could just like repost pictures and stuff. Do you want us to be writing on our blogs though? Like it has to be writing, or are we allowed to just do more pictures?
That's a good question. And I think the answer to the question comes in the beginning of our conversation tonight. Why are you doing it? So I think the hardest thing in a class like this is to get out of the mindset, I'm doing this because it's an assignment for a grade. And to really, you got to know that the people that buy into what I'm saying, they wind up keeping their blogs active. I actually had dinner with 3, actually I invited 4 and one couldn't make it, but 3 former students of WRT235, and we went out and I asked them, this was at the beginning of the semester, it was Tuesday the first week, and I asked them what assignments had the most meaning to them. Every one of them said the blog. And every one of them said that they still had their blog and that it was still active. And I don't know if anybody watched Samantha's video. That was another one of the links I gave you, right? You did. And Samantha's video, her blog got her summer internship, her paid summer internship. All right. So the point is that the short answer to your question is, it depends on why you're doing it, who you're doing it for, and what you think they'll need. All right, as to how much writing, how much pictures, how much video, etc. You know, maybe somebody's going to do a vlog. Maybe somebody's going to do a, you know, is going to focus more on audio. I don't have an answer for you that's, this is the way you should do it. Yes, my blog is writing and pictures. My blog, nobody reads my blog. It's more of a journal that I just throw online in case anybody wants to see it. You know. But if you really want to engage an audience, think about who they are and why, what you're trying to do.
Professor?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm at the airport.
I hear you now. Yeah, I hear you fine.
But okay. So how often would you like us to write on these blogs?
You know, I used to say every day, like it was a journal, but that's not realistic. That's not going to happen. So if you're hitting your blog whenever you think you have something important to write, and trying to say, I'd like to do this 2 or 3 times a week. But also, what I really hope you can pull off is to get readership to respond. And maybe your blog becomes like a conversation where people actually comment on what you write. That would inspire you to want to write more too. But I'd say if you're writing 2 or 3 times a week with meaning, sometimes more, sometimes less, but just not forgetting about it. You know, come the end of the semester, when I go back and I look at the blogs again, and I see that they stopped like the first week in March, I say, all right, that person just did it for the grade. That's not real. But when I see the ones that are still going on and they're having meaning and they're growing, whether it's, you know, and I gave you links to some of them, I think, you know, whether it's a fitness blog or whether it's a food blog or whether it's a travel blog or whether it's, everything I should have known before I got to college blog. Now, I told you that I coordinate the early concurrent enrollment program in the high schools. So we have 1,000 students in Rhode Island who take Writing 104 in high school. And that's the main part of my job, is to go around to the high schools and coordinate with those teachers and do the training and meet the students. And so one of my students actually did a blog that was everything I wish I knew in college before I went to college. And I said to her, can I use your blog with my students? Now that made that blog purposeful rhetoric. That made it real. That's a win. When Samantha talks in the video about her blog, she talks about how her fashion design blog was really about fashion design, and it really was, so much so that it got her that internship. That's a win. So when you're thinking about how often should I write on my blog, think about, again, what am I trying to make happen? And let that drive you. When I used to do papers and I used to assign papers, of course, especially in like a freshman writing class, how long should it be? And I hate that question, because I'm like, as soon as I give you a number of words, you're counting words instead of thinking about why you're doing this. So I just say, if you do what you need to do for the audience that you need to do it for, you'll know. And I know the answer. In a Writing 104 class, the essays are 3 to 5 pages. But if I tell them that, they'll get stuck in that, and they'll be writing for that, So I don't know. You show me how often you should write. One thing I'd like to encourage you to do is read each other's blogs. I think maybe on the Etherpad we should maybe put links to your blogs on the Etherpads, and then we can go and check out each other's blogs. That'll be fun, and it would give us all some readership. What else?
I have a question. If I want to do a topic that's pretty normal, like for example, like I want to do one about working out, but you said make it different than thousands of other people's. Like how would I make it different?
Well, think about who you're trying to get. Are you just, because what I'm afraid can happen is, oh, sorry about that. What I'm afraid can happen is, when you say I want to do a blog about working out, is it just going to be a journal that's just kind of like you just blabbing out to the blogosphere, or are you trying to create meaning with somebody? So like, I would love to see a blog about working out that would benefit me, that would fit me for my goals. I lost 75 pounds last year. I don't want to ever gain it back. So how I work out is all around that. So that's the kind of blog I'm going to look for, right? But that might not be the kind of blog you're going to write, but what kind of workout blog are you going to write? What's it going to do? Who's it going to do?
It would be more of like a motivational type deal.
Right. So Bryce, think about, I'm asking rhetorically right now. You don't have to answer me right now, but think about who you're trying to motivate, why you're trying to motivate them, how you're trying to motivate them, what you're trying to make happen for this person, and all of those questions would design your blog for you. And again, listen to Kristen. She's so, she brings us through a very kind of, what's the word I'm trying to think of right now? It's a very honest process that she brings us through. Kristen was not a writing major. She never even finished her degree, but now she's a professional writer, writing for other people's blogs and keeping her own blogs. And so she takes us through a very honest experience of how she got there. And again, do the reading. In the reading, Create to Learn, Renee Hopps talks about this whole creative process. Let me see. I have that somewhere. Hold on a second. I want to bring up that slide because it's a good slide. Let's see. not this one. Okay. I like this when she talks about the stages of the creative process. There was another thing that I really liked. Oh, the 5 steps of the process, you know, and I like the way she does it in a way that shows you that it's a continuum. It's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm done, like linear. It's a continuum that they just kind of interact with each other, and it just continues through itself until you're done. All right, if you're ever done. So one of the I don't know how many of you are writing majors. I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't know everybody yet, but one of the reasons, like we're totally redoing our Writing 104 class right now, and one of the reasons we don't teach writing like a lot of other colleges teach it, where, or like it was taught in high school, where you read essays and then you write like them, is our goal is that you're working from your own creativity with an authentic purpose, you know, and everybody's creative. Everybody's creative, you know. It's really important to keep that in mind. You know, some people say I'm not creative, but truth is everybody's creative. So, you know, I'm pretty creative. I mean, I like to goof around with stuff. I like to present stuff in a different way. Not everybody feels comfortable doing that, but you find your little part of creativity. I had an electrical engineering major who did, I don't know if I gave you a link to his video or not, but he did like an animation video on open source and electrical engineering. It was brilliant. It was great. It was such an engineered, you could tell who the audience was, you could tell who the author was. It was like only an engineer could do it, you know? Do I want to watch it 10 times? No. But if I were an engineering major, I probably would, you know? It was fascinating to me to see that different voice for that different audience. So, again, answering those questions is going to drive you. Anybody else? And if anybody else would like to participate in the answers to some of these questions, I'd appreciate that too. How many of you have never taken an online class before? Just show me. Never taken. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, a lot of you. Okay. So let me warn you about some of the dangers of online classes, some of the potholes that you can fall into. One is there are due dates. Pay attention to them. So when the assignment opens up on Sakai, make sure you look at the due date. All right. 2 is there is reading. And one thing about my style of teaching that some people don't do real well with is I don't give quizzes and tests. So I expect that you're doing the reading because you want to get as much meaning out of this class as you can. If you skip the reading and you try and get through the class without the book, can you pass? Yeah. Will you learn anything? I doubt it. Not much. So online, it's even harder to remember those things. Like, because you're not getting up and going to it. So there's not that Sunday morning, that Sunday night, I got to get this done because I have class tomorrow morning at 9 thing. You know, that's not happening. So it's harder to get it done. So please, you know, try to be aware of that. And the most important thing I can tell you is, at least with me, communication is really, really important. So I encourage people to ask questions. I don't ever mind questions. I think they're really important. I think good learners understand that you're supposed to ask questions. I think some of us have been, I see this when I visit the high school. I actually had a kid ask me last semester, is it okay to ask questions in college? And I was like, oh my God, I just wanted to like line up all our teachers and smack them in the face. Like, what did you do to this person? You know, why should you be afraid of asking a question? Everybody should be like a 2-year-old, you know? So please ask your questions. And if you're not comfortable asking them in a public forum, well, this is where online classes are nice because you can get in a one-on-one back and forth with the teacher and nobody else has to hear your question. But what's nice about when you ask a question publicly, like if you put it on the Etherpad or if you do it here, is almost inevitably there are at least another 2 or 3 people who have the same question who aren't asking it either, you know? So it's so important. And the other thing, just not so much about an online class, but about learning in general, is one of the reasons why the writing process is so important is you have to fail to learn. You can't learn without failing. So you have to try things and they have to not work so that you can learn what doesn't work. That's why the writing process has to happen. That's why the creative process has to happen. You know, you do something that's a big fail, you don't do it again. You know, now you know. Or maybe you do it 2 or 3 more times before it gets 3 ahead that it's a big fail. You know, because you like it so much. You know, I write songs or I play songs a certain way. I'll do a cover song and I'll love the way I do a cover song. So I'll go out there and I'll do it and it'll be a big bomb. And I'll be like, they don't know. They don't know what they're talking about. It's good. And I'll do it again and it'll be a big bomb again. I'm like, all right, I guess it sucks. I guess I shouldn't do it again. Last Thanksgiving, I decided to take Alice's Restaurant and rewrite it. And I presented it at a party and had my guitar out. And I was like so excited. And I had one guy at the party, my friend's husband, who said, that was awesome. And the rest of the room was just kind of quiet. And then finally, another friend of mine said, promise me you'll never play that again. That was the worst thing I've ever heard. Right? She was harsh. And, but she was honest. I was like, okay, one said it was awesome. One said it sucked and nobody else had a comment. I'll never do that again. All right. I read my audience, but I had to try, you know? So dare to try, you know? I'll tell you about the first semester I taught this class. I had just made that whiteboard video and I was still in touch with that artist. He was local at the time. He's in California now, and I brought him into the class and he talked about the making of the video and he talked about the videos that he made for a couple of book authors and the work he was doing for Mozilla. And I had 4 students that wanted to learn more about his work. They wanted to go visit his studio in Providence, which was really cool. They did. And one student said, I'm going to do videos like that. I want my term project to be, I'm going to make videos about engineering. It was engineering. And he went for it. And at the end of the semester, he presented his videos like they were like really bad tasting soup or something that he tried to cook, you know? He was like, yeah, these really suck. I really thought I was gonna create like the new like Khan Academy for engineering. And that's hard, man. I was like, but you tried and you put everything into it and you have good content here and you got the idea and you got your A, you know? So the A is not so much about the product as about the process and what you learn and what, you know, what you bring and how you reflect and all that. So yeah, dare to fail. But ask a lot of questions, stay in touch. Don't forget about this class, turn it back on in 3 weeks and say, what did I miss? Already like a couple of you have missed a couple of the videos that I told you to watch. I know I gave you a lot. I didn't expect you to do it all in one night or anything. I expected you to space it out. But I gave you at least 4 videos to watch. And I gave you 3 chapters to read so far. I gave you some questions to answer about the chapters. I gave you those little introductory assignments. So we've already done a lot in 3 weeks. Yeah. So it's a real class. And when you're in an online setting, it doesn't always feel like it is. All right. I've been talking for about 50 minutes. I don't need to keep you for nothing, but I want to make sure, you know, I'm willing to go the hour, but does anyone else have any other questions or comments that you want to throw into the conversation? There's also a chat board. I don't know if you saw it, but if you click on chat and you'd rather type them in, you can do that. All right. In that case, then, thank you all for taking the time. I am going to post this recording. I'll send out the YouTube link after I've edited it and posted it. And if you know any classmates that weren't here tonight, encourage them to watch to get the information. I'll be sending out an email to go with that. You can review the conversation again if you want to. It'll be up. Watch as many times you want. And feel free to, again, send questions my way. Put them on the Etherpad. The next time we meet, between now and then, I'll send out a doodle to see what the best time for everyone is. And I'll try and mix it up. There will be a point where you guys will start presenting, and we can talk about what media you can use to do that. You could use this. You could use, again, the format that we're going to use next time. You could use a whole new way. People have used, there are follow links on Prezi where you can present on a conference call with Prezi, and we can watch your Prezi without having to click. We watch you click through it while we listen to you. Or slideshows, like using Google Slides. There are lots of ways you can present. So we'll talk about all that as we go along. But the main thing is to get going with the blog, ask questions, keep up with it, and we'll go from there. All right? So keep checking the emails. Keep paying attention to my cues on what you should be doing and what you should be doing next. And I'll answer your questions as I get them. But it was nice to meet you all tonight. Thank you.